Have you ever opened a door expecting the comfort of home, only to uncover a secret that tears your world apart? That was exactly what happened to Sofia Garcia one stormy evening. 8 months pregnant and eager to see her husband, Andrew Peterson, she never imagined the shocking sight waiting on the other side of that door, another woman brazenly wearing Sophia's hospital gown. In an instant, trust unraveled, hearts shattered, and a long-hidden affair came crashing into the light. Intrigued, this is just the beginning of a tangled tale of money, love, betrayal, and an unexpected fight for redemption. Sofia Garcia had grown up in Redwood City, a bustling town halfway between San Francisco and San Jose, known for its rapidly rising tech fortunes. Yet Sofia, a bright, driven woman from a modest background, had never intended to marry a man whose bank account was more remarkable than his moral compass. She certainly never saw herself living in a sprawling mansion with private gates guarded by uniformed personnel and security cameras mounted along tall hedges. Before she met Andrew Peterson, Sofia was a registered nurse at St. Catherine's Hospital in Redwood City. She was proud of her profession and her ability to help people at their most vulnerable moments. During her shifts, she cared for the ill and injured with a gentle but unyielding spirit that touched many hearts. The hospital staff admired her unwavering compassion, and patients often requested her by name. It was at a charity fundraiser for the Redwood City Children's Fund that Sofia first crossed paths with Andrew. Introduced by a mutual acquaintance, the spark between them lit instantly. Sofia was drawn to Andrew's charisma and heartfelt speeches about his philanthropic efforts. Andrew, the CEO of Redwood Holdings, had built an extensive portfolio of technology investments, real estate properties, and even a luxury spa chain. Rumor had it he was worth over $300 million. But to Sofia, what seemed most impressive wasn't his net worth. It was how ardent he sounded about supporting community services. Of course, that night, Andrew wore a polite smile, regaled everyone with tales of corporate triumphs, and made a show of writing a significant check for the children's charity. Sofia had her reservations. She knew wealth could breed arrogance, and she wanted authenticity. Yet Andrew seemed so earnest that as the evening progressed, her doubts melted away. Their courtship began with grand gestures, red roses delivered to her hospital locker, gourmet dinners at Redwood City's finest restaurants, and romantic weekend escapes to Napa. When Andrew whisked her away to a surprise helicopter tour of the California coastline, Sofia found herself dazzled by his sense of adventure and generosity. She was careful not to get swept away by extravagance alone, but Andrew was more than a big wallet. He was attentive, charming, and supportive of her career. Their wedding took place the following year, in a picturesque ceremony at a historic vineyard in Napa. Friends and family came from far and wide to celebrate the union of a dedicated nurse and a generous entrepreneur. Sofia's mother, Rosa Garcia, shed tears of joy, convinced her daughter had found a good man who truly loved her. Andrew's parents, older money from East Coast pedigree, gave polite nods of approval, and his sister Lucy Peterson graciously welcomed Sofia into their family. Yet even then, on that magical day, some subtle undercurrents hinted at trouble. An ex-girlfriend of Andrew's had shown up at the wedding reception, whispering sly remarks about Andrew's wandering eye. Sofia brushed it off as a scorned woman's jealousy and let Andrew's outraged denial soothe her. Nevertheless, an uneasy feeling lingered in the back of her mind. Life rolled on at a whirlwind pace. Andrew and Sofia moved into a Mediterranean-style mansion in Redwood City's most coveted neighborhood. With crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a shimmering pool in the backyard, the estate was breathtaking. Sophia quit her job at the hospital once she became pregnant. At Andrew's loving insistence, he said, wanting her to focus on a smooth, healthy pregnancy. Although Sophia loved her work, she agreed. Perhaps it was time to think about family first. So she spent her days planning for the baby, renovating the mansion's spare room into a delightful nursery, and occasionally hosting refined dinner parties for Andrew's business associates. Often she felt restless. She missed the hospital, the camaraderie with her colleagues, and the feeling of making a direct impact on patients' lives. Andrew, meanwhile, grew busier. His travel schedule expanded. The Redwood Holdings empire didn't run itself, and deals beckoned from Tokyo to Berlin. Whenever he returned from a trip, Andrew showered Sophia with lavish gifts, diamond necklaces, antique paintings, or custom-made furniture. She appreciated his gestures, but something gnawed at her. He seemed more and more emotionally distant. Still, she tried to rationalize her growing unease. It must be the stress of business, or maybe just her pregnancy hormones heightening her sensitivity. For a while, her doubts were smoothed over by Andrew's reassuring words and the swirling excitement around their forthcoming child. The baby was a blessing, the next step in a dream life, or so Sophia kept telling herself. Then one night, during her final trimester, she opened her front door to discover a devastating secret that would shatter the glossy facade of her marriage forever. It was a chilly March evening, and the night sky rumbled with the promise of rain. Sophia watched as lightning flashed outside the mansion windows. She had never liked storms. They made her feel uneasy, as though the universe was unsettled. On this particular night, Andrew was due to return from yet another business trip, an impromptu one he claimed was necessary to finalize an international deal. Sophia was tired, her lower back ached, her ankles were swollen, and she could barely find a comfortable position on the velvet sofa. Still, she wanted to greet her husband at the door. After all, she missed him. He had been gone for nearly 2 weeks this time, which was the longest stretch he'd ever been away. With each new trip, Sophia noticed more questions popping into her head. Why did he have so many unexpected urgent meetings? Was Redwood Holdings in trouble? Was Andrew in trouble? Telling herself not to let paranoia win, she paced the cavernous foyer, casting anxious glances at the digital clock on the marble hallway table. 11 o'clock. Andrew had texted earlier that he'd land around 10 and come straight home. Yet he was late, and the silence in the house felt oppressive. Even the staff had gone for the night, leaving only the soft hum of the central air conditioning and the faint whistle of wind against the windows. Suddenly, the security intercom buzzed, indicating a car was at the gate. Finally, Sophia muttered with relief. She waddled toward the door, one hand pressed to her belly, the other gripping the doorknob. A flash of lightning lit up the front driveway, and she thought she caught a glimpse of Andrew's silhouette. But something seemed off. The shape wasn't quite right, and the footsteps approaching the door sounded too soft, too light. With a trembling hand, Sophia opened the door. She expected Andrew's familiar face and wide-shouldered frame. Instead, she found herself looking at a petite woman with silky black hair cascading down her shoulders, clad in a hospital gown. Not just any hospital gown, Sophia's hospital gown, the one she'd received at her last prenatal checkup at St. Catherine's, the one embroidered with the hospital's logo. For a full 5 seconds, neither woman spoke. Rain splattered the driveway behind the stranger, and thunder echoed in the distance. Sophia's mind reeled. Who was this woman? Why was she wearing the hospital gown Where was Andrew? Finally, the woman, eyes brimming with defiance, forced a smile. "You must be Sophia," she said, stepping over the threshold, uninvited. "Andrew told me all about you." Confusion and rage burned through Sophia's nerves. She backed up, letting the door swing wider. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice unsteady. The woman brushed a strand of wet hair away from her face. "I'm Alana," she said, her tone deceptively pleasant. "Andrew's friend." Before Sophia could respond, she saw the movement behind Alana. Andrew appeared, an umbrella in one hand, his eyes darting anxiously between the two women. Sophia's heart hammered so violently she wondered if the baby could feel her panic. She tried to form a coherent sentence, but all that came out was a gasp of shock. Andrew closed the umbrella and stepped inside, water dripping onto the marble floor. "Sophia," he murmured, forcing a smile that looked more like a wince. I can explain. Alana's flight was cancelled because of the storm. She needed somewhere to stay, and well," his voice trailed off lamely. Sophia's gaze flicked from Andrew to Alana's gown. "That's my hospital gown," she hissed. "Is this some kind of joke? Why is she wearing my gown?" Andrew. But the question that truly swirled in her mind was even more terrifying. Why would Andrew be traveling with another woman in the first place? The tension in the foyer was palpable. Lightning flashed again, illuminating Alana's defiant stare. "Don't blame him too much," Alana said, tilting her chin up. "He's just looking out for me. It's not his fault you left your hospital stuff lying around. I needed something dry to wear." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. She felt faint, as though the air had been sucked out of the room. She put a hand on her belly, trying to steady herself. The baby kicked, protesting the surge of her adrenaline. Andrew set his umbrella aside, then hesitantly reached for Sophia's arm. "Let's go into the living room and talk. You need to sit down." She jerked away from his touch, her fury boiling over. "Is this some new Redwood Holdings intern?" she snarled. "Or maybe a new assistant?" She realized she couldn't stand to hear whatever half-baked excuse he would offer. She trembled, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. Andrew opened his mouth, closed it, then glanced at Alana, who wore an unreadable expression. The tension in the air soared to a breaking point. Finally, Andrew blurted, "I made a mistake, Sophia." The words shattered what little composure Sophia had left. Her mind flashed back to rumors, to the subtle warnings, to all the times he came home late or left unannounced for overseas deals. She had always found a reason to trust him, until now. With the storm raging outside and a betrayal raging inside, her world was about to break open like a fault line, splitting beneath her feet. Sophia stared blankly at Andrew, her usually soft brown eyes now blazing with anger and betrayal. She could scarcely believe the brazen scene unfolding in her own home, her husband and a strange woman wearing her hospital gown. Rain pounded the roof. Thunder rattled the windows. The charged atmosphere seemed to mirror the turmoil in her soul. Finally, she found her voice. "What kind of mistake?" she demanded, her tone brittle. She'd heard rumors before, but there was something about seeing it, especially in such an intimate, galling display, that struck with the force of a tsunami. Andrew raked a hand through his wet, sandy blonde hair. "It's complicated. I never wanted to hurt you, Sophia. Alana and it started during that trip to Berlin months ago. I was lonely, stressed, and Alana crossed her arms. Why be polite, Andrew? You're not doing Sophia any favors." She turned to Sophia with a curt shrug. "I'm more than a casual fling. We've been seeing each other for nearly 6 months." Her words landed like hammer blows in the otherwise silent foyer. Sophia's knees wobbled. She had never imagined Andrew would do something like this, let alone carry it on for so long. She reached for the banister, to steady herself. 1,000 questions buzzed in her mind. Had he told Alana about the pregnancy? Did he ever love her at all? But most pressing was a single painful inquiry that lodged in her throat. You did this while I was here, alone pregnant with your child. Andrew's face contorted with guilt. I know. I've been a terrible husband. It was a lapse in judgment that just spiraled. A weak explanation at best, but it was all he offered. Alana snorted. Don't sugarcoat it. You wanted me. Your marriage was already on shaky ground, remember? She threw a sidelong glance at Sophia. He told me you two had grown distant, that you didn't understand his ambitions. Sophia took a shaky breath, trying to gather her composure. This is my home. She spat, tears of hurt and anger stinging her eyes, and you come into it wearing my hospital gown as if… Her voice broke. She realized with alarming clarity that she had no idea who Andrew truly was. Andrew reached for Sophia's hand again. You need to calm down. For the baby's sake, please, let's talk privately, just the two of us. Alana, however, made no move to leave. She leaned against the wall as though she too owned the place. With an arch look, she said, Sophia, it's time you accept the truth. Andrew's not the devoted family man you thought he was. He hasn't been for a while. Sophia's heart pounded each word Alana uttered, burning with finality. Unable to stand another second in her presence, Sophia whirled around and stalked toward the living room, calling over her shoulder, Andrew, if you have any respect for our marriage, you'll tell your mistress to get out of my house right now. In the spacious living room, lit only by the warm glow of a few lamps, Sophia sank onto the velvet sofa. Andrew followed, leaving Alana behind in the foyer. He crouched down in front of Sophia, looking up at her with eyes full of something that might have been remorse. She's leaving, Andrew said. I'll have the driver take her to a hotel, I promise. How could you bring her here? Sophia demanded, fists clenched in her lap. Isn't it enough? You've been with another woman? You had to parade her around in my clothes. The humiliation was overwhelming. Her cheeks felt hot, and her tears threatened to spill. Andrew shook his head, voice trembling. We were supposed to get in earlier. We had a layover. The storm changed everything. Her suitcase got lost, and He stopped abruptly, as though he realized how pathetic his excuses sounded. Sophia's gaze flicked to the floor, recalling the day Andrew had insisted she pack that hospital gown for an out-of-town checkup at a specialized prenatal clinic in Los Angeles. He'd acted so concerned, so protective. Had that all been a lie? Andrew reached out to wipe a tear from her cheek, but she recoiled. I love you, he whispered. I never wanted this to happen. Sophia felt a flash of anger. Don't say that. You've destroyed my trust. Why was it my fault somehow? Was I not enough? Tell me the real reason, Andrew. He sighed deeply. Sophia, it wasn't about you. I have been under so much pressure with Redwood Holdings. There have been big losses recently, issues with expansions overseas. I felt worthless. Alana was there when I was traveling. She said the right things, made me feel… His voice tapered off. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just telling you the truth. In that moment, Sophia realized how deeply Andrew's betrayal went. It wasn't just sex or loneliness. It was the act of confiding in another woman, building an emotional fortress with her. The pain was so acute she couldn't breathe for a moment. Her voice trembled. I'm carrying your child. This is supposed to be the happiest time of our lives, and you've turned it into a nightmare. Andrew bowed his head. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The living room was quiet, except for the rain tapping on the windows. Memories flashed through Sophia's mind, their wedding day, the vow they made to stay faithful in sickness and in health. Her mother's proud smile during the father-daughter dance. How had it all come to this? Finally, Sophia broke the silence. "Get her out of here," she said, her voice steely. "I need time to think about what to do next. Tomorrow we'll decide how we handle this, but tonight she leaves. Now." Andrew stood and turned toward the foyer, relief warring with shame on his face. "I'll do it right away," he promised before disappearing through the arched doorway. Left alone, Sophia cradled her belly. She could feel the baby kicking, responding to her emotional state. She tried to center herself, reminding herself that she needed to be strong for her child. But one devastating thought kept pounding in her brain. If Andrew had lied about this, what else was he hiding? In the hours that followed, Sophia couldn't sleep. Memories assaulted her from every angle. She lay awake in the massive bed she once shared so happily with Andrew, listening to the storm roll through the night. She tried to forget the image of Alana wearing her hospital gown, tried to quiet the gnawing sense of betrayal, but it was impossible. Her mind drifted back to their early courtship, to a particular night at Redwood City's exclusive Monarch Club. She remembered how Andrew had invited her after a charity dinner. The club was housed in a restored historic building, its interior lush with red velvet drapes and gleaming chandeliers. That night, Andrew introduced her to many of his friends, other CEOs, entrepreneurs, big names in finance. He'd been proud to show her off, telling everyone how she was one of the top nurses at St. Catherine's. Sophia had noticed even then how the glances from certain women lingered a little too long on Andrew. She'd teased him about being a magnet for trouble, and he had laughed, pulling her close, whispering that she was the only woman for him. Back then, she believed him wholeheartedly. Another memory bubbled up, the time she found a suspicious text on Andrew's phone while cleaning the bedroom. It had been from an unknown number with words like "can't wait for next time" and a series of suggestive emojis. When she confronted him, Andrew insisted it was a prank from a colleague. He assured her there was nothing to worry about, gave her a reassuring kiss, and she let it slide. Now she saw how naive she'd been. She recalled also the day Andrew took her to see Redwood Manor, an extensive property he was renovating for a new Redwood Holdings venture. The caretaker of the manor, an elderly man named James Whitmore, had casually mentioned that Andrew often came by the property with a female business partner. Sophia, at the time, thought nothing of it. Andrew was known to collaborate with all sorts of talented individuals. But was Alana that business partner? For months, if not years, Andrew had spun illusions around her. She wondered if she ever truly knew him at all. And then a fresh wave of anguish rolled in their unborn baby, would enter a world of fractured trust and uncertain futures. Could she forgive Andrew for their child's sake? Or was some betrayals too profound to move past? The storm outside raged on, echoing the turmoil in Sophia's heart. By the time she drifted into a fitful sleep, her pillow was soaked with tears. Little did she know the drama was only beginning. The next morning, the skies had cleared. Sunlight streamed through the bedroom window as Sophia awakened, her eyes swollen from the night's tears. She felt physically and emotionally drained. The baby squirmed inside her, reminding her that she had to eat something, had to keep her strength up. There was more at stake now than just her own heartbreak. She got up, pulled on a loose-fitting dress, and made her way downstairs. She found Andrew hunched over the kitchen island, a cup of coffee in hand. He looked as though he hadn't slept either. "Sophia," he said softly. I sent Alana to the Redwood City Grand Hotel last night. We need to talk about what to do next. She nodded tersely, pressing a hand to her aching back. Yes, but not until I've had breakfast. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She simply needed a moment to gather her thoughts. She headed to the fridge and took out some eggs, mindful of her doctor's advice to maintain good nutrition during pregnancy. Andrew hovered nearby. "Do you want me to cook for you?" he asked, voice hesitant. Sophia shook her head, too raw to accept his gesture of care. As she prepared scrambled eggs, Andrew studied her, likely searching for signs of forgiveness. But Sophia's walls were up. Then, just as she cracked the final egg, the doorbell rang. Sophia froze, exchanging a wary look with Andrew. Who could that be? This early, she asked. Andrew frowned. "I'll get it. You finish up." From the kitchen, Sophia heard muffled voices in the foyer. Moments later, Andrew returned, his expression grim. "It's for you," he said. Sophia set aside the whisk and wiped her hands on a dish towel. Her heart thumped. Who would be visiting her now? Maybe it was Lucy, Andrew's sister, coming to check on her after hearing rumors. Or perhaps a neighbor. She wasn't prepared for any well-meaning intrusions, not when her world felt so unsteady. But as she stepped into the foyer, her blood turned cold. Standing there, holding a large envelope, was a face she recognized from the Redwood City Times Society pages. Richard Martin, a corporate attorney, rumored to handle high-stakes divorces and business disputes. He'd been at a few Redwood Holdings events, always trailing after Andrew. Sophia's eyes widened. "Mr. Martin?" she said, her stomach twisting. "Why are you here?" Richard offered a polite nod. He was a tall man with gray, slicked-back hair and an impeccably tailored suit. "Sophia, Andrew," he said in a professional tone. "I apologize for dropping by unannounced, but this couldn't wait." He extended the envelope to Sophia. Andrew stepped forward, his jaw tightening. "What is this, Richard?" His voice was laced with tension. Richard cleared his throat. "Andrew, your father asked me to deliver these documents personally. It concerns a trust fund arrangement. He was informed about recent events." Sophia felt an icy chill run through her. Andrew's father, Gregory Peterson, was an old-money patriarch from Boston, known for his ruthlessness in protecting the family name. She'd never felt entirely comfortable around him. He held traditional views on family status and had always been polite, yet distant toward her. Andrew snatched the envelope, tore it open, and scanned the documents. His face darkened. Then, without warning, he turned to Richard, voice trembling with rage. "Tell my father he has no right to meddle in my marriage. This is my personal life." Richard cleared his throat again. "He's concerned about protecting the Peterson fortune. Given your situation, he wants to ensure that if there's a divorce or any scandal, the trust remains intact. He also wants assurances about the Peterson name and future heirs." His gaze flicked to Sophia's pregnant belly. Sophia's mouth went dry. She felt suddenly like a pawn in a high-stakes game she never agreed to play. The affair was scandal enough now. Andrew's father was stepping in with legal pressure. Andrew threw the papers onto the foyer table. "This is ridiculous," he spat. "Sophia, ignore this. My father is blowing things out of proportion." Richard pursed his lips. "Sophia, I'm sorry you had to be involved in this. It's nothing personal, just standard precaution. Given Andrew's net worth and the trust's structure, Mr. Peterson wants everything settled. This includes potential custody arrangements, paternity tests." "Paternity tests?" Sophia nearly shouted, outraged. "Is that your father's brilliant idea? Because Andrew cheats now, he assumes I might be the unfaithful one." Richard lifted his hands in a calming gesture. "I'm only the messenger. Gregory wants to protect the Peterson name. He's heard rumors about Andrew's affair, and he's concerned about confusion of lineage. It's standard in high-profile divorces. Sophia's cheeks flamed with indignation. The very idea that her fidelity was in question, especially when she was the one betrayed, was infuriating. Andrew exhaled sharply, looking as though he wanted to punch a wall. Richard, Andrew said, trying to remain composed, "Tell my father I'll handle it. This is between Sophia and me. The trust is none of his concern right now." Richard nodded, stepping toward the door. "I'll relay the message, but be aware he expects prompt resolution. He doesn't want negative publicity to damage Redwood Holdings or the Peterson legacy." As soon as Richard left, Sophia rounded on Andrew. "Is your father for real?" she demanded. "He'd challenge our baby's paternity. You're the one with a mistress, and now I'm under scrutiny." Andrew sighed, rubbing his temples. He's always been like this, controlling, paranoid. "I'm sorry. Look, let's take a day or two to let things settle. Then we'll figure out how to respond." But Sophia felt her anger searing into her bones. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about power and control, about the darkest side of wealth, and its ability to manipulate people's lives. If Andrew was truly sorry, why had he allowed events to spiral so far? She strode back into the kitchen, tears threatening again. The eggs were burned, but she didn't care. She had lost her appetite anyway. Instead, she sank onto a stool and braced her head in her hands, trying to hold herself together for the sake of her baby. Meanwhile, Andrew stood in the doorway, looking every bit the lost soul. Yet sympathy for him was hard to muster when fresh betrayal and the sting of paternal interference overshadowed her thoughts. The future had never looked more uncertain. Sophia spent the day in a fog of uncertainty, pacing the mansion's halls, trying to distract herself by rearranging the nursery. Every tiny outfit she folded, every stuffed animal she positioned, brought to mind the precious life she was safeguarding. As the hours dragged on, Andrew kept his distance, holed up in his study, presumably contacting lawyers and business associates to mitigate the fallout. By late afternoon, Sophia's phone buzzed with a text from Lucy Peterson, Andrew's sister. "I heard. I'm coming over. Don't send me away." Though she felt torn about letting anyone from Andrew's family into her sanctuary, Lucy had always been kind. She was a woman who dedicated herself to philanthropic work, often volunteering at Redwood City's homeless shelters. She was the only Peterson who truly treated Sophia like a sister, not an outsider. Reluctantly, Sophia texted back, "Fine. Hurry." Half an hour later, Lucy arrived. She was a willowy blonde in her early 30s with a determined expression. She carried a small bouquet of lilies and wore a navy blue pantsuit that hinted she'd come straight from a corporate meeting. Sophia opened the door before Lucy could ring the bell. Without a word, Lucy stepped forward and enveloped her in a tight hug, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Sophia's throat tightened, and she led Lucy to the quiet living room, relieved that Andrew hadn't emerged from his study. Lucy perched on the sofa's edge, placing the lilies on the coffee table. "I only just heard. Father sent his pit bull lawyer." "Are you okay?" she asked, glancing at Sophia's swollen belly with concern. Sophia sighed. "I'm managing. I feel betrayed, humiliated, worried for my child, and furious." Lucy nodded, chewing her lip. "I get it. But listen, you have a right to know something. Father's been orchestrating certain things behind the scenes. I've been suspicious for a while, but I just confirmed it." Sophia narrowed her eyes. "What do you mean?" Lucy tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "A few months ago, Father was ranting about how Andrew was making risky business moves. He didn't want Redwood Holdings to suffer if Andrew's personal life brought on negative press or compromised deals. I overheard Father on a call with his lawyers. They discussed encouraging Andrew to, well, she hesitated. They discussed nudging him toward extramarital affairs, especially if it meant forging alliances overseas. Father's logic was that Andrew could keep certain influential figures appeased, if you catch my drift. A cold knot formed in Sophia's stomach. That can't be true, she said hoarsely. He'd push his own son to have affairs. Lucy grimaced. You'd be surprised how far Father goes to protect business interests. He invests in illusions in relationships that might help Redwood Holdings. I don't know if Alana is one of those alliances, but Father rarely does anything by accident. And once Andrew was tangled up in an affair, Father could hold it over him, control him if things got complicated. Then, if Andrew tried to break it off or resist, Father could threaten to cut him out of the family fortune. Father's done similarly manipulative things to me too, in terms of my philanthropic ventures. But encouraging an affair, that's a new low. Sophia felt like she'd been punched. She sank into the sofa, her hand automatically resting on her belly. So Andrew could be a pawn in his father's game, she whispered, mind-whirling. It didn't excuse Andrew's actions. He was still responsible for his choices, but it cast a darker light on the entire situation. Lucy leaned forward, eyes earnest. Yes. I'm telling you this because I know how Father operates, and I want you to be aware. There's probably more going on. If he's sending Richard Martin now, it means he's serious about controlling the damage. Tears pricked Sophia's eyes again. She brushed them aside. Thank you for telling me, she said softly. I can't believe it. The lengths people will go for money and power. Where does it end? Lucy placed a gentle hand on Sophia's knee. It doesn't. Not unless you fight back, reclaim your life. Regardless of what Andrew did or didn't do, you have your own choices. You can walk away. Father's intimidation tactics are strong, but I'll support you if you decide to leave. Sophia felt overwhelmed by Lucy's words. Before she could respond, Andrew appeared in the living room doorway. His eyes flicked between the two women, noting Lucy's grave expression and Sophia's tear-streaked face. Lucy, he said stiffly. Hello. Lucy stood and faced her brother, arms crossed. Andrew, how could you let things get this out of control? You're breaking Sophia's heart. He swallowed hard. I know, and I deserve all your anger. But trust me, the situation with Alana was my mistake. I wasn't forced. I'm not that easily manipulated by Father. Guilt etched lines across his face. But Lucy, he's definitely twisting the knife now. Lucy shook her head. You need to take responsibility. Father's meddling is one thing, but you still made the choice to be unfaithful. That's on you. Andrew exhaled, turning to Sophia. We need to talk about a plan. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose my child. But I also won't let my father sabotage our entire future. Sophia thought about everything she'd learned, her emotions swirling. On one hand, she was furious at Andrew for betraying her. On the other, Lucy's revelation suggested a deeper family dynamic at play. Could it be that Andrew got pulled under by his father's toxic influence, fueling his sense of entitlement and poor decisions? She rose to her feet, mustering her resolve. Lucy, thank you for being honest with me. Andrew, for the sake of my sanity, I need space to figure out what I want to do. She paused, hand pressing protectively to her belly. I'm going to see my mother. I need to breathe, to think, without your father's or your baggage weighing on me. Andrew's shoulders slumped. Sophia, please, let me come with you. She shook her head decisively. No, I need to do this alone. Turning to Lucy, she gave a grateful nod. "Thank you. I'll call you soon." And so with her sister-in-law's concerned gaze on her back and Andrew's silent plea hanging in the air, Sophia walked out the door. She didn't look back. Little did she know, the next steps she took would lead her deeper into a web of drama, unveiling truths she never expected to confront. Sophia drove down familiar streets, her mind a whirlwind. Every turn reminded her of simpler times back when she'd dream of living a purposeful life as a nurse. She soon arrived at a modest bungalow, tucked in a quiet Redwood City neighborhood where her mother, Rosa Garcia, still lived. Roses and marigolds blossomed in the front garden, lovingly tended by Rosa's green thumb. Sophia parked and hesitated, her hand resting on the ignition. Could she bring herself to share this heartbreak with her mother? The moment she thought of her childhood bedroom, the evenings spent cooking tamales together, and the unconditional love Rosa always showed, she knew she had to. She needed her mother now more than ever. She stepped out of the car, trying to calm her trembling legs. Within seconds, Rosa opened the front door. She must have seen Sophia pull up. Rosa's warm smile morphed into concern when she noticed Sophia's tear-stained face. "Mija, what is it?" Rosa asked, hurrying down the porch steps. Sophia let out a shaky breath. As soon as she felt her mother's arms wrap around her, the tears came in a torrent. "Mama," she whispered, voice cracking, Andrew, he—" She couldn't finish. Rosa guided Sophia inside, helping her settle on the sofa. The house smelled of home-cooked stew and fresh laundry. Sophia closed her eyes, allowing the comforting sensations to soothe her. Rosa left briefly, returning with a blanket and a cup of chamomile tea. She placed them gently beside Sophia, then took a seat. "Tell me, Mija. Whatever it is, we'll face it together," Rosa said softly, brushing back a strand of Sophia's hair. Leaning into the warmth of her mother's love, Sophia explained everything from Andrew's affair and the humiliating scene with the hospital gown to Gregory Peterson's meddling and Lucy's revelations. Rosa listened, her eyes flashing with anger and sadness in turn. Several times she reached out to squeeze Sophia's hand as if to say, "I'm here." When Sophia finished, Rosa pressed trembling fingers to her lips. "My poor daughter," she murmured. "I knew that family had their secrets, but this is too much." Sophia inhaled shakily. "I feel so betrayed, Mama. And Father Peterson wants to question our baby's paternity." Can you believe that Rosa's face hardened? No mother should endure such insult, especially when you're carrying a child. You deserve better. Her tone sharpened. "The question is, what do you want to do now?" Sophia stared at the teacup in her hands. "I don't know. Part of me wants to run, raise this baby on my own. But I also loved Andrew. I still love him, maybe. I hate him, and I love him. Does that even make sense?" She rubbed her temples. "And what if leaving triggers a nasty custody battle with the Peterson family's money and lawyers? They could ruin my life, Mama." Rosa pursed her lips. "That's a risk, yes. But you have rights, and you're not alone. I'll stand by you. Lucy will too, from what you've said. If Andrew truly wants to reconcile and break free from his father's grip, that's his responsibility to prove. You deserve someone who treats you with respect, not a doormat to step on." A small smile tugged at Sophia's lips. Her mother was fierce. She always had been. Perhaps that was where Sophia got her own backbone. Rosa continued. "Stay here for a few days. Rest. Let Andrew sweat. He needs to show he'll fight for this marriage if that's what you decide. You just focus on taking care of yourself and my future grandbaby." Sophia nodded, feeling a flood of gratitude. "Thank you, Mama. I need a safe space. Over the next few days, the warmth of her mother's home cocooned Sophia like a healing balm. She slept in her old bedroom, the same pastel walls adorned with her teenage posters and photos of high school friends. Outside, Rosa watered her flower garden, humming lullabies from Sophia's childhood. It was a glimpse of a simpler life, untainted by the poison of wealth and betrayal. During that time, Andrew texted and called incessantly, leaving voicemails apologizing, begging her to come home, promising to fix everything. He even sent her flowers, which Rosa promptly refused at the door. Sophia didn't respond. She needed time to think and to decide if Andrew's vow to change was genuine or another layer of the Peterson facade. Sophia hadn't expected to hear from her. When the message lit up her phone, her stomach dropped. Unknown number, Sophia. This is Alana. I'm still in Redwood City. We need to talk. Woman to woman. Noon. Riverside Cafe. Sophia stared at the screen. Her initial instinct was to delete it and never reply. What could Alana possibly say that hadn't already been burned into her memory? The image of her standing in Sophia's hospital gown still haunted her dreams. And now she wanted to talk. Yet a stubborn part of Sophia was curious. Alana had been at the heart of the betrayal, but maybe she knew something Sophia didn't. After all, Lucy's warning about Gregory's manipulations had cracked the surface. Perhaps there was more to the Peterson family's treachery. Sophia responded with a single word. Fine. That afternoon, she arrived at Riverside Cafe early. It was a cozy waterfront spot with ivy-covered walls and mismatched wooden chairs. She sat at a corner table in the back, facing the entrance. Her hand rested protectively over her belly as her thoughts churned. When Alana arrived, she looked calm, polished. Sunglasses, sleek black hair, tied in a loose bun, and a neutral-toned coat. She spotted Sophia and approached with deliberate steps. "Thanks for meeting me," Alana said, removing her glasses and offering a half-smile. Sophia didn't smile back. This better be important. They sat. Sophia ordered a decaf latte. Alana asked for water. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Alana leaned in. "I won't insult you by pretending I'm innocent. But there are things you don't know, things I think you deserve to hear." Sophia crossed her arms. "Like how you ended up in my house in my clothes while I was carrying my husband's child." Alana winced. "Yes, but this didn't begin the way you think." She hesitated, then continued. "I met Andrew through his father. Gregory sponsored a European business summit where I was pitching my startup, a marketing firm. After my presentation, he pulled me aside and said he was impressed. He offered to fund my business with a condition." Sophia narrowed her eyes. "What kind of condition?" "He wanted me to accompany Andrew on his business trips. To keep him company," he said. I thought he meant networking, maybe social appearances. But it became obvious Gregory meant something else. "You agreed," Sophia said, disgust tightening her voice. "I needed the funding. I convinced myself it was just a working relationship. But Andrew, he was charming and vulnerable. He talked about feeling misunderstood, isolated. We crossed a line." Sophia's fingers curled around her cup. "So you became his mistress for money. I became involved, yes. But I wasn't just some paid escort. I liked him. And then when it became clear he wouldn't leave you, Gregory doubled down. He offered monthly payments to my firm as long as I didn't stir up scandal. I took it. My business was failing." Sophia blinked, trying to process the layers of betrayal. "So you were a hired distraction, a transaction in Gregory's empire." Alana pulled a folder from her handbag. and placed it gently on the table. Here's everything. Emails, bank transfers, flight arrangements, all orchestrated by Gregory. He even told me what not to wear around paparazzi. Sophia flipped through the papers. The wire transfers were clear. The messages from Gregory were clinical cold. Ensure Andrew remains relaxed. Avoid media. No public affection. A nauseous swirl churned in Sophia's gut. Andrew knew, he suspected. He never admitted it, but I could tell. He looked the other way. Said things like, "It's all just coincidence, right?" But he didn't stop. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. He chose to stay in it, to let his father manipulate our lives. "Yes," Alana said softly, "but I'm done. I'm leaving Redwood City. I told Gregory I won't be involved anymore." "Why tell me all this now?" Sophia asked bitterly. "Because I'm ashamed, and because you deserve the truth. You're not the fool in this story. You were the target." Gregory didn't want Andrew to have a strong, independent wife. He wanted someone who wouldn't question the business, someone disposable. Sophia closed the folder, her throat tight. "I should thank you for this," she muttered, "but all I feel is betrayal." "I don't expect forgiveness," Alana said. "I just wanted to set the record straight. For what it's worth, I think he does love you. He's just never had to stand on his own before." Sophia stood. "Then he'll get the chance now." As she walked away, clutching the folder, her thoughts raced. She didn't feel pity. Not yet. What she felt was clarity. Gregory had weaponized loyalty. Andrew had let him. And Alana, for all her faults, had exposed a rot Sophia could no longer ignore. She had truth in her hands now, and she planned to use it. Sophia returned to her mother's house with a storm brewing inside her. The folder in her hands, full of Alana's damning documents, was heavier than it looked. She hadn't just been betrayed by her husband. Gregory Peterson, the patriarch of the empire Andrew belonged to, had orchestrated the affair like a chess move. The humiliation was deeper than personal, it was calculated. She called Lucy and told her everything. Alana's confession, the wire transfers, the emails. Lucy's voice shook. "I believe you, and I'll stand with you if you decide to confront him." For hours, Sophia debated calling Andrew, but she needed to see his face when the lies unraveled. She wanted him to feel it. That evening, she drove through the wrought iron gates of the mansion. The staff opened the door with polite smiles, but Sophia walked past them without a word. Andrew was pacing in the living room, face drawn and anxious. When he saw her, his whole body softened. "Sophia," he breathed, stepping toward her. She didn't let him finish. She slammed the folder into his chest. "Rid." He opened it slowly. With each page, the color drained from his face. "Where did you get these?" he asked, voice faint. "Alana. She told me everything, how your father paid her, coached her, and how you let it happen." "Don't lie to me, Andrew." He closed the folder, shame flickering across his face. "I didn't know it at first, but I suspected. My father introduced us, made sure we were always randomly bumping into each other. I told myself it was nothing, that I was in control. But I wasn't." Sophia's voice cracked. "You were in control when you betrayed me, when you looked the other way, when you chose her again and again while I was here, pregnant alone." "I was weak," he admitted, his voice hollow. "I let my father manipulate me. But that doesn't excuse it. I failed you." Before Sophia could respond, a voice echoed from the entryway. "What's going on in here?" Gregory Peterson entered, dressed in a charcoal suit, his expression unreadable. He glanced at Sophia, then looked to his son. "Andrew, I stopped by to check on the legal paperwork." but it seems I've walked in on a domestic situation." Sophia turned to him, fury in her veins. "You paid Alana to seduce your own son. You engineered this whole betrayal." Gregory offered a smirk. "You're being dramatic. Strategic relationships are how real empires are built. I did what was necessary to secure Redwood Holdings' future." Andrew stiffened. "You destroyed my marriage for business. I gave you an opportunity," Gregory said flatly. "You're the one who couldn't separate business from emotion." Sophia stepped forward. "I'm carrying your grandchild. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" He scoffed. "I care about the Peterson name, and I won't have a sentimental mess jeopardize it. If you can't manage your marriage, that's your problem." Andrew's voice rose, cracking with rage. "Don't talk to her like that." Gregory waved a hand. "I warned you. Keep control, or I will." Andrew grabbed the folder from the couch and hurled it to the floor at Gregory's feet. "I'm done. With you. With Redwood Holdings. I'm signing out of the trust. Keep your legacy." Gregory blinked, stunned. "You'd walk away from everything for this woman?" Andrew didn't hesitate. "She's my wife. That's more than you've ever respected. And if you ever come near her or our child again, I'll expose every dirty deal in that folder." Gregory's voice dropped into a threat. "You'll regret this. You don't know the world without my support." Sophia stepped beside Andrew. Her voice was low but steady. "I don't want your money. I want peace. And I swear, if you try to intimidate me, I will take legal action. I have your emails, your transfers. I'll bury your reputation." A tense silence hung in the air. Gregory adjusted his cufflinks. "Very well. I'll leave. But don't come crying when this fantasy crumbles." He turned and walked out. The door slammed behind him. Andrew collapsed onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. "I've ruined everything." Sophia didn't move. Her heart was still a storm. "You haven't ruined it. Not yet. But this was your last chance to be honest. I need proof that you've changed, not promises." He looked up, eyes rimmed red. "I'll give you proof. I'll walk away from my father. I'll build something new for us, for our daughter." Sophia's lip trembled. "Do you mean it?" "I do," he whispered. "No more lies, no more Gregory, just us." She turned away, swallowing hard. "We'll see. Words aren't enough anymore. But I want to believe you." Andrew took a breath. "You won't have to do this alone." Her hand rested instinctively on her belly, feeling the baby's steady movements. "I hope not," she said softly. In the days that followed, Andrew resigned from Redwood Holdings and severed ties with Gregory, igniting a legal firestorm. Sophia returned to the mansion on her terms. "I'm not here because I forgive you," she warned. "I'm here to see if you can change." Andrew took on smaller consulting projects and prioritized Sophia's pregnancy, attending every doctor's visit and childbirth class. Though she allowed his presence, Sophia's trust was fragile. Nightmares of Alana and betrayal still haunted her. Lucy became an unwavering ally, joining therapy sessions and helping expose Gregory's manipulation. Andrew tried to rebuild cooking meals, reading parenting books, and leaving notes of encouragement. As her due date neared, Sophia began to glimpse hope. One morning, she awoke to find Andrew bringing her breakfast, his eyes tender. "I'll never take this second chance for granted," he said. Sophia, still cautious, whispered, "I'm learning to trust again." 2 weeks later, their daughter was born. They named her Esperanza Hope. Though scars remained, Sophia and Andrew faced the future hand in hand, determined to build a life rooted in love, not illusion. 2 weeks later, at the newly renovated Redwood City Birth Center, an extension of St. Catherine's Hospital, Sophia went into labor. Andrew was by her side every step of the way, holding her hand, sweating through every contraction. The labor was intense, and it lasted nearly 20 hours. But in the early dawn light, a wail announced the arrival of a healthy baby girl. Tears streamed down Andrew's face as he cut the umbilical cord. "She's perfect," he murmured, voice shaking. Sophia cradled their daughter, marveling at her tiny fingers and perfect little nose. In that moment, the betrayal and heartbreak, though not erased, seemed smaller in the face of this miracle they created together. Gregory didn't show up at the hospital. Lucy came bearing flowers and balloons, her eyes wet with joy. Rosa wept tears of relief, kissing her granddaughter's forehead and proclaiming this child a new beginning. Sophia and Andrew named their daughter Esperanza, which means hope. For them, she embodied the power of second chances, the possibility of light emerging from the deepest darkness. Andrew spent every hour doting on Sophia and baby Esperanza, and though they still faced a rocky road of healing, they did so together, forging a future built on genuine love rather than illusions and wealth. And that in the end was the truest happily ever after Sophia could have hoped for. As the drama unfolds and a new life enters the world, we see that redemption sometimes thrives in the unlikeliest of places. Despite the lies, heartbreak, and toxic family legacies, Sophia and Andrew find a path toward healing anchored by the birth of their daughter, Esperanza, an emblem of hope even after betrayals that could have destroyed them. Their story isn't just about a wealthy husband's affair, it's a testament to personal courage, the bonds of genuine love, and the resilience to stand up against powerful, manipulative forces. If this tale moved you, if you felt Sophia's heartbreak, Andrew's remorse, or the joy of their baby's first cry, please help share it. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this story with someone who needs a reminder that second chances do exist. Your support allows more inspiring stories to come to life, offering hope, courage, and maybe even the chance for healing. Thank you for watching.